Your Royal Highness, members of the board, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, good morning and welcome to the Stavros 4th Annual International Conference on Philanthropy. We are delighted to see so many familiar faces, many of you veterans by now of this conference, and to welcome new ones. This year's conference is different from the previous ones, not only in terms of its subject matter, philanthropy and sustainability, but also because it follows 4 days of inaugural programming at the Stavros Niarchos Foundation Cultural Center, and in particular, the Stavros Niarchos Park. As many of you may know, the Stavros Niarchos Foundation Cultural Center is the foundation's single largest grant to date. The previous 4 days could be defined as seminal ones, since they represent the public's first substantial encounter with the project, following many years of planning and construction. The project is now less than a year away from completion, and the Stavros Niarchos Park is the heart of the whole complex. The other two main components being the new facilities for the National Library of Greece and the Greek National Opera, with great attention paid towards its environmental benefits, as well as the environmental elements of the actual project. The SNFCC's strong commitment to an ecologically friendly design emphasizes the foundation's strong commitment to the environment, and it connects the opening of the Stavros Niarchos Park and the programs that took place there over the past 4 days to this year's conference. As a matter of fact, the Stavros Niarchos Foundation Cultural Center relates closely to the discussions that will unfold here today and tomorrow about sustainable cities and neighborhoods, sustainable education, sustainable arts, and many more. The SNF is an international foundation. Over the last couple of decades, we have provided support for thousands of programs in over 100 countries around the globe. The issue of sustainability resonates in everything we do. We focus on supporting programs that have the ability to impart sustainable impact, and we continuously address the sustainability of NGOs, a critical issue, given the fact that they are the ones that implement the actual programs on the ground. We hope you will enjoy the sessions, and for those coming from abroad, we hope you will enjoy your stay in Athens, and you will leave this city as ambassadors of the great things this country has to offer. Before we start, allow us to thank, from the bottom of our hearts, our colleague Lenia, who worked very hard to make the conference happen, and is here with us now at a short break of her maternity leave, since Lenia will shortly be giving birth. We would also like to thank all our colleagues at the Foundation who have put a lot of hard work as well to make sure everything goes smoothly. Last but not least, allow me to use this forum to thank my colleague Stelios for another year of friendship, support, and tango, because it takes two. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Lenia, and welcome to all. I think actually we'll need a panel on sustainable Lenia so that we make sure that she continues to do what she does. She does everything extremely well and with extraordinary grace. Thank you.
Thank you.
In addition to our colleagues and everyone else who has worked tirelessly in order to make this conference possible, I would also like to thank all of the participants, including the panel moderators and organizers. Putting panels together and moderating them can be a long and taxing process. We truly appreciate everyone's participation, as well as their efforts to create an intellectually rigorous and challenging program. Over the last 3 years, through this forum, we have debated a number of critical issues: philanthropy and ethics, youth unemployment, how do foundations respond to social and economic crisis, to name a few. As we have said over and over again, we don't pretend that the conferences would provide us with all the answers, but we certainly hope that they will raise as many questions as possible. This year's conference is not an exception. The concept of sustainability is a complex one that leads to many questions. Jeremy Caradona, one of the conference's participants and the author of Sustainability, a History, an excellent study on the history of the emergence of the idea, talks about how ubiquitous the use of the term has become. As the case usually is with such universal terms or jargon, globalization is another one of them that comes to mind. The more we use them, the more superficial they become, and the more important it is that we aim to move beyond the surface of superficiality and seek some depth in understanding them. For example, there is continued talk about the importance of sustainable communities. All of us who live in North America in general, in the US in particular, hear this buzzword all the time. But the explosive and critical issue of race is constantly ignored in the conversation about sustainable communities. If it is included, it is one-sided in the sense that those most impacted by racial discrimination and inequality tend not to participate in the conversation about how to make their communities sustainable. The perspective usually is very different from that of those who are setting up the parameters of this conversation. The same applies to the conversation about sustainable development or sustainable growth. Many would argue about the contradictory character of these terms. The term growth implies movement, a gradual increase, while sustainability implies upholding something at a certain level, a contradiction indeed. Continuous population growth places a lot of pressure on natural resources and the environment. The conversation on attaining sustainable development and growth is dictated by one side also, us humans. We always prioritize our needs and constantly readjust the terms to benefit us. Nature and its needs has no voice in this increasingly critical conversation. In considering these issues, we have to move beyond superficial accounts. What we are dealing with here are complex systems that are composed by a number of different but also interconnected parts which can behave in an unpredictable and in many instances rather arbitrary manner. Our aim is to instigate a conversation that moves beyond today's superficial use of these terms. And as I said at the beginning, we can't provide all the answers, but what we strive for is to raise as many questions as possible. I just wanted to mention quickly that for those who use Twitter, there is a hashtag where you can do so, SNFConf 2015. And now I would like to invite the Foundation's core president, Mr. Andreas Strakopoulos, to officially open the conference. Thank you again.